What if I told you there's a single, continuous civilization that has been shaping our world for 5,000 years? From the paper we use every day to the gunpowder that completely redefined warfare, its legacy is woven into the very fabric of our lives. But how did it manage to survive millennia of war, invasion, and revolution? How did it rise, fall, and rise again to become the superpower it is today? Well, in the next 10 minutes, we're going to race through the entire history of China. Weiling's journey from its mythical beginnings with legendary emperors all the way to the sprawling megacities of the 21st century. We'll uncover epic battles, world-changing inventions, and the powerful dynasties that forged one of the planet's oldest and most influential civilizations. This is going to be a wild ride, so let's jump in. Our story kicks off in the fertile basin of the Yellow River, often called the cradle of Chinese civilization. For the longest time, China's very first dynasty, the Xia, was thought to be just a myth, but then archaeologists at sites like Erlitou started unearthing palaces and bronze workshops nearly 4,000 years old, hinting that a complex, organized state was more than just a legend. Following the Xia, we have the Shang Dynasty, and this is where history gets a lot clearer because they left behind written records. But not on paper. The Shang would carve questions to their gods on tortoise shells and ox bones, then heat them until they cracked. Those cracks were read as divine answers, giving us an incredible window into their world and the earliest form of Chinese writing. The Shang were also master craftsmen, creating intricate bronze vessels that still blow people's minds today. Around 1046 BC, the Shang were toppled by the Zhou, who went on to establish the longest-lasting dynasty in Chinese history. To prove they had the right to rule, they introduced a powerful idea that would shape Chinese politics for the next 3,000 years, the Mandate of Heaven. The concept was simple. Heaven gave an emperor the right to rule, but only if he was just. If a ruler became corrupt and disasters like floods or famines started happening, it was a sign he'd lost the mandate and the people had every right to rebel. It was the ultimate political cycle: rise, prosper, decline, and get replaced. The early Zhou period was a time of huge cultural growth. But that stability eventually frayed, and its later years spiraled into chaos, known as the Spring and Autumn and Warring States periods. Yet, out of that very chaos came the 100 schools of thought, a golden age of Chinese philosophy. You had thinkers like Confucius, who argued for a society built on respect, morality, and knowing your place. And then you had Lao Tzu, who is credited with developing Taoism, a philosophy about finding harmony by following the natural way of the universe. The Tao. These ideas would profoundly shape not just China, but all of East Asia. The chaos finally came to an end into 21 BC with a bang. The state of Qin, led by a ruthless and brilliant leader named Jingzheng, conquered all its rivals. He declared himself Qin Shi Huang, the very first emperor of China. His dynasty would be incredibly short, lasting only 15 years, but it would change China forever. Qin Shi Huang was a unifier, almost obsessively so. He standardized everything: the writing system, money, even the width of cart axles to make trade and transport seamless across his new empire. He connected existing walls to create the first version of the Great Wall and commissioned the jaw-dropping Terracotta Army, a project he began long before becoming emperor, with thousands of life-sized clay soldiers to guard him in the afterlife. His rule was brutal, no doubt, but he forged the template for a unified Chinese state that would last for centuries. After the Qin's harsh rule, the Han Dynasty took over in 206 BC, kicking off one of China's most celebrated golden ages. Lasting for over 400 years, the Han was a contemporary of the Roman Empire and every bit as influential. This dynasty cemented Confucianism as the state ideology and created a revolutionary civil service system where officials were chosen based on their merit through tough exams, a system that would endure for 2,000 years. The Han pushed China's borders out and, most famously, opened up the Silk Road. This network of trade routes wasn't just for moving silk. It was a conduit for goods, ideas, and cultures, connecting China to Central Asia, India, and even Rome. It's during this time that Buddhism trickled in from India, starting its long and transformative journey in China. And let's not forget technology. Han inventors gave the world something we can't live without: paper. They also developed an early seismograph to detect earthquakes. But no golden age lasts forever. The Han Dynasty collapsed in 20 AD, throwing China into almost for centuries of division and warfare. While it was a politically chaotic time, it was also a period where Buddhism and Taoism really took root, offering comfort in a deeply uncertain world. China was finally stitched back together in 581 by the Xia Dynasty. It was short-lived, but it left behind something monumental: the Grand Canal. This massive waterway linked the Yellow and Yangtze rivers, connecting the agricultural south with the political north, basically creating an economic superhighway. The Xia set the stage for another brilliant era, the Tang Dynasty. Often seen as the high point of Chinese civilization, Tang China was confident, cosmopolitan, and incredibly powerful. Its capital, Chang'an, was the biggest city on Earth, a buzzing hub of international culture. Art, poetry, and tech flourished. And it was the Tang who developed woodblock printing, making it possible to mass-produce texts and images for the very first time. It's amazing to think how much history we've covered, and we're only about halfway through. If you're digging this sprint through time, do me a favor and hit that like button and subscribe for more stories that shaped our world. It's a huge help. After the Tang fell, China splintered again, but was soon reunified by the Song Dynasty in 960. While maybe not as militarily fearsome as the Han or Tang, the Song was an economic and technological giant. This era saw an explosion of game-changing inventions. Chinese alchemists, while trying to create an elixir for eternal life, accidentally invented gunpowder. The Song also perfected movable type printing, making books cheap and widely available. They created the world's first government-issued paper money and used the magnetic compass for navigation, letting their ships sail farther and more accurately than ever before. This era of prosperity was brought to a sudden, violent end by an unstoppable force from the north, the Mongols. In 1271, Kublai Khan, the grandson of Genghis Khan, conquered the last of the Song and established his own Yuan dynasty. For the first time, all of China was ruled by outsiders. As part of the vast Mongol Empire, China's links to the rest of the world grew, and travelers like Marco Polo brought tales of its incredible wealth and sophistication back to a stunned Europe. Mongol rule was surprisingly short. A peasant rebellion kicked them out, establishing the Ming Dynasty in 1368. The Ming were all about restoring Han Chinese traditions and power. They built the stunning Forbidden City in Beijing, which would serve as the imperial palace for 500 years, and they're the ones who rebuilt the Great Wall into the iconic structure we know today. Early on, the Ming were explorers, launching massive fleets led by Admiral Zheng He that sailed as far as Africa. But later, the dynasty turned inward, sharply restricting foreign trade. Then, in 1644, another group from beyond the wall, the Manchu, broke through and established China's final imperial dynasty, the Qing. The Qing expanded the empire to its largest size ever. But by the 1800s, it was facing crises from all sides: internal rebellions and aggressive European powers armed with superior technology. The Opium Wars with Britain ended in humiliation, forcing China into unequal treaties and costing it territory. The dynasty was crumbling from the inside and out. After more than 2,000 years, the imperial system shattered. A revolution erupted in 1911, and in 1912, the last emperor, a little boy named Pui, abdicated the throne. China was declared a republic, but the 20th century was anything but peaceful. The new republic was weak, torn apart by warlords, soon faced a brutal invasion by Japan. That was followed by a devastating civil war between Chiang Kai-shek's nationalists and Mao Zedong's communists. In 1949, the Communists won, and Mao declared the founding of the People's Republic of China, while the defeated nationalists fled to Taiwan. The decades that followed brought radical change, immense turmoil, and great hardship, but they also laid the foundation for China's next transformation. From the Yellow River to the modern megacity, China's story is one of incredible resilience. Dynasties rose and fell, empires were forged by the sword and held together by the written word. But the civilization itself, its culture, its ideas, its people always endured, innovated, and reinvented itself. It's a story written in bronze and silk, in poetry and gunpowder. And now, after 5,000 years, China is once again a central player on the world stage. The only question is, what does the next chapter hold